Welcome into the Boston Sports Summit. My name is Tim Barnard. Welcome into the Boston Sports Summit presented by the Grid Network. We have a big show for you tonight. It is all playoff focused and or draft focused because let's face it, the NFL draft is tomorrow night, round number 1, and it is going to be fire. All right. It's going to be a big time spectacle as the NFL always loves to do. And it's going to be very interesting to see what the Pats have at number 3. Also, as you can see behind me, we got the jerseys going on. We got the Ray Allen Celtic jersey as well as the new Bruins 100-year centennial jersey. And, you know, they're in the playoffs. The Bruins are going around game number 3 tonight. And the Celtics have game number 2 tonight at 7 o'clock. Hence, the early hour of the Boston Sports Summit, because I know you, myself, we're going to want to watch the games. So let's get this show on the road. First and foremost, we got to talk about the Patriots, all right? It is all about the Patriots at number 3. You're on the clock. And at number 3, what do you think that they're going to do tomorrow night? That's the million-dollar question, right? What are the Patriots going to do? They could go with quarterback. They could go with trade out. If they go with quarterback, they got Daniels. They got May. They got now McCarthy if they trade back. They got Penix, who, again, as you know, I'm a big fan of. You know, I've talked about this before. As you can see, my top quarterbacks, I got Penix at number 2. And then basically 3A, 3B, and 3C is McCarthy, Daniels, and May. I know I put 4, 5, 6, but still. And I am really interested to see what they're going to do. But first, a little bombshell hit just the other day, actually 2 days ago, when Diana Rossini tweeted out, the New England Patriots are listening and taking calls from teams looking to move into 3. While Elliott Wolf is running point, I'm told Patriots president Jonathan Kraft is heavily involved in the decision-making, which, again, to me, scares the crap out of me. And you know why? Because I hate it when you have owners who have absolutely no right to be in the football decision-making process, making football decisions. And that's probably one of the reasons why Jonathan Kraft is getting involved, because Bill Belichick is gone. And with Belichick being gone, that means the power can go back to the Krafts, right? The power can go back to the Krafts, and there doesn't need to be any more issues, with, okay, Bill can do whatever he wants type of issues, right? We have a young team, not only on the field, but front office, also the coaching staff is young. So there's a lot that this team needs to, be prepared for. So why wouldn't Jonathan Kraft want to run the team? Well, the reason why, like I said earlier, I hate it is because Kraft knows nothing about football. Sure, he grew up with his father, for the latter half of his life owning the team. I want to say Jonathan was probably in his 20s. I'm not 100% sure on that when Robert bought the team back in 94. But I am wondering what that heavily involved means, right? Because if it's, a typical owner involvement, hey, we have the number 3 overall pick, Jonathan, Robert, we have this, we want to take Drake May, or we want to trade this pick because we feel like we can get JJ McCarthy or Michael Penix later. So we're still getting that top tier quarterback, but this is the trade that we're going to have to make. And if it's something like that, if it's something that comes down to money or just trying to get their opinion on the value, then fine. You know what? Then I got no problem with that. But if it's Jonathan Kraft now spearheading the whole trade bit, being, calling up teams saying, hey, we want to trade number 3. What are you going to give us? And then he's running it and type of deal, or he's on the call with Elliot Wolf and he's kind of like nudging and saying, no, ask for this, like off the call. That's what scares me, because Jonathan Kraft should be nowhere near this. It's, him, Robert, and Robin Glazier. I don't even know why, like Robin Glazier, she's a lawyer. Like what, the fact that she's the president of football ops, I'm pretty sure, like she's a lawyer. What are you talking about? Like she should be football operations. I don't know. But so that's the type of heavily involved I need to know. And if it's the latter, if it's the one that I don't like, which scares me as a fan of the Patriots, the Patriots, well, let's face it, they're going to have some explaining to do in terms of Robert Kraft saying multiple times that Jonathan is not involved in the day-to-day operations. That he also goes on to say during Gerard Mayo's introductory press conference that ownership input will be the same input that we've made for the last 3 decades. Elliot Wolf, ultimately, football decision-making is down to Gerard and I, and then Gerard saying they as an ownership, don't want to be involved in football decisions. So if Jonathan is heavily involved, then they need to go back and figure out, what they need to say from here on out. Because that's what kills me. The New England Patriots have become the Boston Red Sox when talking to the media. They'll make it sound like everything is okay. Hey, we're not football people. We're not involved, so don't worry. We're good. But then in the background, they're doing everything else, right? And that's what is driving me up a wall. If they truly are involved. Now, before I go on, I do want to, at least specify, I know that Jonathan is not sitting down, watching film, trying to say, oh, I like Drake May there. I like his footwork. Or, J.J. McCarthy, is cool under pressure. Look at the blitz coming in and look at him staying in the pocket. No, I know Jonathan's not doing that. I'm not that stupid. But if he is the one spearheading everything and that Elliot Wolf gets to, say, I like this, then that scares me because Jonathan should not be. It should just be a, hey, we're going to trade number 3. This is what we're going to have to, this is what we can get for it. Here are a couple offers. I like this. So what are your thoughts? Or I know if I'm Elliot Wolf, I know we can get more for 3. Do you like any of these deals? And then the Crafts can be like, yeah, yes or no, right? But to sit there and, constantly have them say to my face, basically, that we're not a part of this. We're out of this. And yet you have Diana Rossini nationally saying that Jonathan is heavily involved. I mean, like, what are we doing? Right? Like, make up your mind. And then the funniest part about it was, again, that story blew up. And the following day, so yesterday, she had to not necessarily rescind what she said, but she had to clarify it, right? By saying the Pats have yet to award the title of GM to Elliot Wolf, who is running point, and it has shifted to a more collaborative process overseen by Jonathan Kraft. Ownership is allowing the football decision makers to make the calls while keeping open and constant line of communication. But make no mistake, the Crafts know everything that is going on, as they should. So that last line I want to just talk about a little bit, because they, the Crafts know everything that is going on, as they should. Yes, you have the number 3 overall pick in the NFL draft. You sucked so much last season that you were a top 3 pick with essentially 5 to 6 quarterbacks worthy of first-round draft selections. Now, are they going to turn out to be worthy of first-round draft selections? I don't know. But that's the draft that this is in. So, of course, they should know where they stand, right? They should know what the football guys are doing, as they knew what Bill Belichick was doing. You think that Robert Kraft let Bill Belichick consistently trade back year after year after year? Yes, he did. Like, Bill was like, Robert, I don't like some of these guys that are coming up. I think we can get a equal or better value when we move back into the early second round, or we move back into the 20s or further back into the 20s, or, hey, these two guys are coming up, i.e. Chandler Jones and Dante Hightower. Let's move up. And so Robert's like, of course, Bill. Like, Bill told Robert everything that he was going to do, right? So that's what, like, Robert was kept in the loop. And now I think we're reading a lot into this because it's Elliott Wolf, who's never been a GM and doesn't hold the GM title, also meaning that his contract is up after this draft, basically. So they haven't re-signed Elliott Wolf, and they brought in a new head coach who has only been coaching basically for 5 years, all of which has been with the Patriots. So he's never been truly a defensive coordinator in Gerard Mayo. So truly, this is a rookie staff that we put together all around. And yes, Jonathan Kraft is overseeing this. I get it. But Jonathan is also probably looking at this going, well, I've also been a part of this. Bill has told me just as much as he told my father. So I am going to step in. I am going to talk to these teams and do X, Y, and Z. And, I'm going to be the one negotiating. Elliott Wolf, yes, is running point. He might make the call, get the call to a certain point, and then hand it off to Jonathan, who's going to go the rest of the way, right? Like, that's what scares me. That's what I'm not liking about this. And I find it funny, too, that Diana Rossini, while saying that Jonathan Kraft is heavily involved, the very next day is saying that, oh, it's a collaborative process overseen by Jonathan. Like, seriously? This is what we have to go on? That, oh, no. When I said earlier that Jonathan is heavily involved in the decision-making, no. I just meant that Jonathan is overseeing everything, right? And so can we please just either one, back off, let Elliott Wolf make his own mistakes, basically, or two, admit to it. Admit to being involved. Stop trying to be the Red Sox and hide behind saying, well, what I meant by full throttle was, no. Just admit to it. Just because, again, you're talking to a fan base in the Patriots who are smarter than you think, are smarter than you give them credit for. And we've come a long way from being in Bill we trust, right? We've come a long way from that. Now, we don't trust anybody because we've realized over the last 6 years to maybe the last decade that Bill has had a lot of trouble with the draft, hence the position that this team is in currently. And with the way the Krafts and Belichick kind of handled that, parting of the ways, it was one thing. And again, I've said it time and time again that Bill needed to go. He needed to go, right? It was done. And don't get me wrong. Thank you. Thank you, Bill Belichick, for all that you did for the Patriots. And I'm not trying to suck up to Bill. I'm just saying, he was a massive, massive, massive part of it. You cannot deny that. There is no Brady without Bill. There is no Bill without Brady. Can we at least admit that? Secondly, with the dynasty and everything that's come out recently, Kraft sabotaging Belichick's chances with the Falcons, it's very easy to sit there and look at Robert Kraft and Jonathan Kraft and just question everything that they're doing. Because you've lost us. If you just let Bill walk away, everything would have been fine. I probably would have had more faith in you. I probably would have believed you a little bit more than I currently do. Because of, hey, you let Bill walk out, you're paying him the $25 million, or he got the job with the Falcons. Everything is fine, right? We're cool. But then you had to release the dynasty. And don't tell me that you didn't have stay, because you were the executive producer on it. Okay? So there's that. And also, too, with the whole news that Kraft sabotaged Bill, and it behooved Kraft to have Bill get the job. So if it behooved Kraft to have Bill land the Falcons job, but yet he was still so petty that we ended up where we're at. Why am I going to sit here and trust that Jonathan knows what to do? Sit here and trust that Robert knows what to do? I'm not. It's absolutely foolish. It's absolutely foolish. And I don't understand it. And of course, too, Diana Rossini, national, she, had to run that back a little bit, had to clarify, what she meant by Jonathan being heavily involved. But then, if you listen to some of the local guys, it's almost like they're on the take for the most part. And listen, I get it. Some of these guys actually are, and they're good friends with the Crafts. And I got no problem with that. But I have a problem with owners not being upfront with their fans. And if this report comes out, there has to be some legitimacy to it. Again, same thing with the Wickersham and the Falcons. Now, Robert might not have called blank up and explicitly said, don't hire this guy on your life. Don't do it. Don't do it. But he might have thrown a few things out there that was kind of shaky, which is why blank ended up not doing that, which is why that article came out blaming Kraft for Bill not getting the job, even though Kraft wouldn't have had to spend a cent this season or this year on Bill Belichick had he got the Falcons job. So that's why I'm just kind of just embrace it. At least with Jerry Jones and the Jones family, they're up front. They're Jerry's I made this decision. My son is the director of player personnel. I made the call on the draft pick. Blame me. They're up front with it, and I respect that. But with Robert in the Red Sox, I know I'm crossing teams here, but still, they don't want to accept blame. Nobody in today's generation wants to accept blame. Look at LeBron's press conference. I know I'm jumping all around now, but it's just can we please just be upfront and just say, yes, we're more involved now. We didn't have control of this for 20 years, and now we want that control. Is it that hard to say? I don't know. Apparently it is. So, what to do in number 3? Now, a lot of reports recently have been swirling that Jaden Daniels hated his time at Washington, especially for the fact that the Commanders decided to bring in 4, I think, other quarterback prospects at once, have dinner together. because they want to see, who's going to be competitive. Like, what? That's so dumb. Like, that is such a Washington move because of just how stupid it is. But also, too, the Patriots have been tied to Drake May a lot. And I'll admit, he's got a cannon for an arm. But how often do guys who have cannons for an arm fail to pan out? And the thing that scares me is that why, when you have so many holes on the offense, why is your first in so many quarterbacks too, excuse me, when you have so many holes on the offense and so many quarterbacks able to take, especially in the first, 36 picks, 34 picks, because you're at 3 and 34, why wouldn't you want to trade back to accumulate more draft capital, especially in this year's draft in the first round, to then take a guy while also securing your receiver position, your left tackle position, maybe another O-line or another receiver, whatever the case may be, right? And then get your quarterback at 34, at 23, at 11, at 13, wherever you trade back to. That's what I find kind of crazy to me, is that everybody wants, we got to take this guy. We got to take this guy. And listen, if I'm wrong about Drake May and he pans out and he's Josh Allen but better, then you know what? I'll own up to it. I'll say, yeah, you know what? Maybe we shouldn't have traded back. But at least with this, instead of throwing all your chips in on number 3 for at least the next 3 years, maybe 4, why don't you try to accumulate more picks and widen that opportunity? Again, I love Michael Penix. Supposedly, you could get Michael Penix at 23. So why wouldn't you do that? You could get Michael Penix at 34. So why not get multiple first rounders out of the deal? Now, if other teams right now are being ridiculous, saying that, to go from Minnesota, for instance, to go from 11 to 3, we'll give you 11 in next year's second for number 3. If they're being stupid like that, then yeah, of course, don't even entertain that stuff. Laugh in their face and hang up. But if you can get a bag, if you could get 11, 23, next year's first, Christian Darrisaw, Jordan Addison, Justin Jefferson, I don't know, not all of those, but you at least get 11, 23, a current player in next year's first, or 2 years from now's first. I don't know. Again, the bag, the massive haul. The team is selling the farm for this, right? Then I would be heavily entertaining. But with the report coming out that J.J. McCarthy, the Patriots might trade back, but they might go back to 6 to take J.J. McCarthy, all because he's got Michigan ties and it's Kraft, Brady, and Belichick. I mean, listen to this. ESPN's Jeremy Fowler reported on Wednesday that although the Patriots project LSU's Jaden Daniels and North Carolina's Drake May ahead of Michigan's J.J. McCarthy, team owner Robert Kraft could be eyeing McCarthy because of his similarities to Tom Brady. That's right, folks. You have to remember, it's the Kraft, Brady to McCarthy connection. That's what we're going to do. You know what? Screw Drake May. Screw Jaden Daniels. No. Let's go with the national champ. Let's go with the Michigan guy who threw 8 passes against Penn State and won. That's the guy that's going to save this franchise. Why? Because he's a Michigan man. That's right. Brady has built up a great relationship. And even though he's a part owner of the Raiders, we're going to go and get McCarthy because of Brady's relationship. So Fowler goes on in his article to state, quote, My sense after asking around to several sources that the Patriots have Daniels rated ahead of Carolina's Drake May in the pecking order, but still like May's upside. Quote, McCarthy would fall somewhere after that, though I was reminded Tuesday night to not totally discount Robert Kraft's affinity for Tom Brady, who might see shades of himself in McCarthy, a fellow Michigan product. The Patriots could trade back and acquire McCarthy with a later pick. Like, oh, goodness me. Like, if that means they're going to trade back to 6 and get 6 and 47, which I think is what the Giants have, I mean, you could do so much better. You could do so much better. And I know I brought it up. McCarthy is, my 3A, B, or C. It fluctuates every day, basically. Whichever film is what I watch the latest, that's who's 3A. But again, it's like you're going to rely on the fact that J.J. McCarthy wore Michigan blue. You're going to rely on the fact that Tom Brady played at Michigan. Robert Kraft loves Tom Brady with every single ounce. Robert Kraft is absolutely in love with Tom Brady. And that's really why you're going to take a guy. This is why I was fearful of the Krafts being heavily involved, is because you have dumb, stupid stuff like that. You're going off of emotion, not what you actually need. And that's why, again, just please spare me this. I don't need it. If your reason for taking McCarthy is because you think he's better, then do it. But if also, too, you take him over Penix, I'm like, come on. Then who's really making the decisions here? But with the decisions that need to be made, you know what? I wanted to do this because it's the day before the NFL draft. We have a day before the draft, and why not have some fun by doing a mock draft, right? Let's do a mock draft. And as you can see on the screen, it's going to be a full 7-round mock draft, and the speed is on turbo, so don't worry. We'll be just fine. And we're going to, go 50-50, public versus PFF, care about positional value, a little bit higher than what they gave us, a little bit less than middle, but we're going to draft for needs right in the middle, and then randomness is just a tick above less, right? So let's enter the draft. Now, I would like to point out that let's see what we can get. And again, I'm going to be asking for a lot at number 3. So if we start the draft, Caleb Williams and Drake May. If you have any, comments on who I should take, be sure to hit, comment on the video. Comment on the video. It helps with the algorithm, but also I get to see what you guys are thinking, what you guys might enjoy, or who you might want. So we have 24 trade partners. The Chargers want to trade up. We got the Giants, Titans, Falcons, Bears, Jets, and Vikings. So I keep talking about the Vikings all the time. So let's check out what the Vikings would be willing to give us. So we can only trade next year's draft. We can't go any further than that. So it's not like I could trade, 2 firsts, 2025 first, and a 2026 first. Can't do that. So let's go 11, 23 for number 3. Obviously, it'll likely be accepted. Let's go a first rounder next year. And let's go with offensive tackle Christian Darrisaw. And it said the trade will not be accepted. It wasn't accepted. That's fine. So let's throw in the 100. Let's throw in next year's 3rd. Anything? Nope. All right. So that won't happen. We have 3 attempts remaining. So, you know what? I'm not, like I said, it would be interesting to see what we could get. Obviously, PFF is very rigid, and I will never do a forced trade on this because I think forced trades, just are weak. So let's go. Let's take the number 3 guy. We'll go quarterback. We got Jaden Daniels. I know I keep talking about Michael Penix, but like I said, I like Jaden Daniels. So let's take Jaden Daniels at 3. So now we jump all the way ahead to 34. All right, let's look at the trade options. We have Washington wants to come up. They got 36 and 40. That's 2 picks away. So let's see if we can get both picks. All right. Obviously, it won't be accepted. We'll give them, what if we give them next year's 3rd? 103. Wow, they really don't like that offer. You know what? We don't need next year. All right. Next year's 2nd rounder. And then a next year 4th. Let's try that. Or actually, let's get rid of the 4th. Let's see what we can get. Oh, baby. How about a 3rd? 3rd and a 4th? For Juju and that? No? All right. Let's go the 2nd. Let's go with 34, 2nd, and Juju Smith-Schuster. There we go. All right. So now Washington's on the clock. See, look at that. We just made a trade. Why? Because I can't stand Juju. I think he blows. And the fact that he had that stupid video on Snapchat. What an idiot. What a friggin' idiot. So, all right. So we jump to 36 and 40. Let's resume. Washington took Tyler Nubin and Mike Sanderstel, local Everett boy, went 35 to Arizona. So now, oh, look at that. Both Bo Nix and Michael Penix. Sheesh. So let's see what we can get at receiver because obviously this team is in desperate need of a receiver. Xavier Worthy. That dude was the speed demon out of Texas. He ran the fastest 40 time. I don't like that. Malachi Corley. My boy, Florida boy, Ricky Pearsall. That's tough. What's at the tackle position? Jordan Morgan out of Arizona. He's a pretty good player. Morgan needs to get stronger to play his tackle and guard the other, but his desirable athletic traits such as fast hands and feet bolster his starting caliber potential. I like that. You need to focus on that. So all right, you know what? Let's go. Let's get the tackle. Let's go Jordan Morgan. And now we're at 40. Where let's see, Javion Sanders, Ricky Pearsall. I liked Ricky, but I feel like we got a lot of guys similar to him. If we had a solid X, then I wouldn't mind getting Ricky. But I also like Xavier Leggett. He is a physical specimen. So let's 6'3", 227. And if you listen to his press conferences, the way he talks, it's awesome. Absolutely would love to see his Southern accent in Massachusetts. But before we do that, because we don't pick until 68, yeah, we'll leave it at that. All right, so let's take Xavier Leggett. Let's get the receiver position, and now we're at 68. All right, 68. We got a couple trade options here. You can get the Giants 70 and 107. The Cardinals are looking to trade up with their 71st. Let's see, maybe get the 90th too. That no. Man, nobody wants to give away that 2nd pick. I'm also greedy too. Like if we're gonna make this trade, we gotta make this trade. You gotta make it worth my while. All right, 74. And they give us 79. Nope. Let's give them 103, 231. Nothing. And next year's 6th. How about that? Let's just take away from next year. Nah, we're good. Let's just go back to drafting a player. All right, who do we have? Defensive lineman. Ooh, Brandon Coleman. Let's see. I mean, we're in desperate need of, again, just everything. You know, look, QB, wide receiver, tackle, edge. I know edge, but again, it's tough. Ray Davis, he had a day against Florida, man. That was a tough game to watch. But great if you're a big fan of Kentucky and Ray Davis. So, you know what? Let's do this. Let's go. Let's get Brandon Coleman. Let's get another tackle. You know, just because we can't get enough of, we can't get enough offensive linemen. I mean, with how often these guys can go down. Well, still got people who want to trade. Charges go back to 105. Can we get 103? Six. Next year's. Yeah, we can do that. Let's do that. 50-50. There we go. So now we just made another trade. We got 105 and 110 in next year's 7th for 103, 193, 231, a 5th, and a 6th. All right, so now we're back on the clock for good. No more trades here. As you can see, the Chargers took Cade Stover, and the Cardinals took Michael Hall Jr. Let's see. Who do we have here? We got some guys. Ina Smith, Devondre Sweat, Brendan Rice, Zion Vakai. But if we go back all the way to the top, we got tight end Ben Sinnott, who had a heck of a year, overall grade 82. When you look at his, let's look at his 6'4", 245. He's a true jack of all trades tight end who can line up in the backfield, the line of scrimmage. His game lacks a true trump card, but he's the type of versatile role player the NFL team wants in their tight end room. And again, with Hunter Henry being our lone guy, I think that's where we need to go. So let's do it. Let's get Ben, and then we're back on the board at 110. If we give up 110, can we get next year 4th? 5th? Nah, we're just going to make picks from here on out. Jamari Thrash, Jarian Jones. I like it. I like what I'm seeing. Nike Smith. I mean, we do need some to pair Devondre Sweat, 6'4", 362. He has the ideal size for the interior at his best. He's an impact versatile interior, but the weight and conditioning will determine how often. Well, you know what? He's got that ideal size, though. And if we can pair him with Christian Barmore, man, that would be electric. So let's go there. Ooh, Mason Smith would have been nice. Caden Wallace. I like Will Shipley. We also need, again, we can never take enough linemen or receivers. You know, don't forget that. Jaheim Bell, Florida State, Cam Hart. Jalen Coker, local boy, Holy Cross. Jordan Winnington, Zach Zinter. Go back up. Jordan McGee, Theo Johnson. You know what? Let's go with Rice. Let's go with Luke. Luke McCaffrey. If I remember correctly, actually, I think he is related to Christian McCaffrey. So that would be an interesting pick for sure to have another guy in the league. And, I forgot about this. What do we have? Will Reichard. There we go. All right. Our last pick, round 6. Let's take the kicker because, God, do we need kicker help. So we got Will Reichard to round out the draft. So let's look at our mock draft here. Jaden Daniels at quarterback at 3rd overall We traded a 34th and a second next year, as well as Juju to get 36 and 40. With that, we took Jordan Morgan and Xavier Legette. We got Brandon Coleman at 68, Ben Sano at 105 because we traded for 105, traded back to 105 and 110 in next year's 7th for 103, 193, and 231 next year's 5th and 6th. At 110, we got Devondre Sweat, 137, Luke McCaffrey, and then we finish it off with kicker out of Alabama, Will Reichard, and our overall draft grade to B-, but that doesn't matter because I like it, and I hope you like it as well. So that was fun. I think it was a good time. Hopefully you liked it, enjoyed it, and hey, you know what? It's if you don't, you can always let me know. You can let me know if you liked it or not right here at Twitter, Boss, BOS, Sports Summit, or X. I always do that. You got Instagram, Boston Sports Summit, YouTube, Boston Sports Summit, and then obviously live on the Grid Network every Wednesday. Next, we got some playoff hockey, baby. We got the Bruins. And what happened games 1 and 2 will forever be a mystery to me, and why they did what they did. And no, I'm not talking about their goalie platoon, because you know what? That was actually the best part of them. Games 1 and 2. Jeremy Swayman was a little bit off, made at least that one careless error, but it wasn't the worst thing in the world. All right, so let's look at game 1 first. We'll do that. And then we'll move on. But before we get looking at game 1, I want to get you guys excited, right? Because we're talking about a fun game it was. And
they call him the Big Rig, 3-time Stanley Cup champion Pat Maroon with the big hit on Timothy Liljegren.
Bam! Pat Maroon throwing Liljegren over into the Bruins bench. Love to see it. That's why I was excited to get the Big Rig, Pat Maroon, and I'm glad that he has been able to at least produce in game 1 with that massive hit. But when looking at game 1, the funny part was Toronto totally played way out of their game and trying to be physical with the Bruins, but honestly, it fell over the boards like Liljegren into the Bruins bench. That was stupid on their part, because they're a finesse team. They are a more finesse team than any team I think left in the playoffs. Now, that doesn't mean they won't hit, because they actually out-hit the Bruins 52-51 in game 1, but it didn't have a factor. It wasn't a big factor, because just because you hit somebody doesn't mean that you're more physical than the other team. It might look it, but it's all about the hits and the timing of the hits. Did the hit really force, them to play scared, And so I liked game 1. It was a fun time when we had Johnny Beecher. Welcome to playoff hockey, baby. Welcome to Stanley Cup playoffs. Rookie scoring his first goal in his first game. Love to see it on his first shift, no less. He opened up the scoring, and then DeBrusque, Carlo was able to score the next goal off of Austin Matthews' miss. So basically, Jeremy Swayman had that terrible play where he tried to retrieve the puck away from Matthews, but Matthews got it and had a wide open net from a tough side angle. It hit the front post and it bounced away. The Bruins were able to get it, obviously, and then literally the next sequence of plays, they skated it right down the offensive zone, got it behind the net, passed it out to Carlo at the blue line, who throws like a half slapper, and they got up 2. DeBrusque with 2 of his own. It was great to see. It was a lot of fun. Glad that we stomped on them in game 1. And the funny part was, yes, Jake DeBrusque shined in game 1. And yes, Jake DeBrusque is going to be a free agent this offseason. but he's making $4 million. And for a guy who only scored 19 goals and 21 assists this season, why would I even consider paying him $4 million? Right? He's trying, I think he's looking for $5, $6, $7 million. He thinks he's that type of player. The last 2 seasons, he scored 25 or more goals, while playing less games than he did this season. He played 80 games. I think the lowest amount of games he's played was, 71, over the last 3 seasons. Or he played 71, and then somewhere in the 60s, the 2 seasons he scored 25 and 27. So just because you did that, why would I even consider? Even if we were to make a long run in these playoffs and DeBrusk is one of the reasons why we do it, I still don't like paying him $5, $6, $7 million. I think that's friggin' ridiculous, because to earn that type of money, it has to be well-rounded. And if you want to hold me to that, then you can obviously say, Tim, well, David Pasternak's getting paid, what, $10, $11 million? True. But he's at least putting up 50 goals a season. And then, yes, in the playoffs, he's like half there, half not. He kind of disappears. Everybody gets more physical. He can't play the physical game. But, with DeBrusk, the dude should be on the third line. He should be a consistent third liner. Problem is, we're so weak for talent that he has to play on the second line. If DeBrusk was a third line guy, I think he'd be playing a lot better than he is, or at least statistically be a lot better than he is. But, it's just how it is. And so, great game 1 performance. And then you have game 2. And the Bruins, they honestly, it feels like they have no idea what they're doing half the time. Because, again, as I stated at the top of the segment, it wasn't the platoon that I was concerned with. Because when I saw it, I go, listen, even if we lose this game, it would have to take a lot for Ullmark to be the reason why we lost. And that's before I even saw a second of this game. And then I watched the game, and I'm like, Ullmark was phenomenal. Hell, he was the one that kept us in the game. Ullmark was the one that kept us in the game. And our team just was out to lunch. They were just like, hey, we're good. We were undefeated against these guys all season long, so we'll be fine. We'll beat them. No, you weren't. And that's what bothers me, is that I loved, actually, Ullmark's game. And they have to continue this. I swear, they really have to go Swayman Ullmark. It just feels like that's what they need to do. Because the team didn't show up. The forward group, first and foremost, had 0 forechecking. There were multiple times during that game where they threw the puck into the offensive zone and then either went off to go change or were just kind of like, yeah, we'll maybe go after it. We'll attempt to go after it, but we're not going to, dump and chase. No, they just hung back. They skated in. Toronto was able to collect it and then move down to the other end of the ice. And you spent a lot of your time in the defensive zone, and you sucked. You really sucked. And the funny part is Toronto's D is thin. If you can stay in their zone for a long period of time, you'll get them. They have a good goaltender. Ilya Samsonov's not bad, but it's not like he's elite either. He's no Andrei Vasilevsky. And like I said, the defense is weak. I.e., look at how Johnny Beecher got his goal, right? You had Austin Reeves and Joel Edmondson coming in and pinning Pat Maroon to the boards, leaving Jesper Boquist and Johnny Beecher 2-on-1. And Johnny Beecher was able to capitalize in game 1. They're not great defensively. They're not sound defensively. So that's why it's like, if you can dump and chase and force Toronto to be in their own zone, you're going to be fine. But they didn't. And while the Toronto forwards are arguably the most talented group of forwards in the Stanley Cup playoffs, they might be talented, but does that mean they're defensively sound? No. And I want to talk about the John Tavares goal. And you have Kevin Shattenkirk standing right there with the star over his head. Yep, I know. I had a little fun with this because look at where the puck is. That's the direction that it takes. And look at Kevin Shattenkirk already coiling up. Like, I understand that it might not be his game to be the blocking defenseman that I think the Bruins desperately need, to be that strong defensive guy. But, I mean, come on. You had Jacob Lauko, who had no right to block a shot, in the final seconds at the end of game one. And that's exactly what he did, because he's a tough SOB. But with this, I mean, like, dude, you have to block that shot. And then Ullmark, yeah, listen, I said I enjoyed Ullmark's game. I don't believe that he was the sole reason why the Bruins lost. But when you look at that, and you see where Shattenkirk is, he had to hug that post a lot more. And I understand it's the blocker, but dude, to get beat short side like that, I mean, that's tough. That's really, really tough to do. It's a tough look, like even when I watched it live and I saw that exact replay initially, I'm like, there, dude, you have to be more up against the post. You have to know where you are in relation to the net. And as for tonight's game, it's going to be interesting because Peak is out, which sucks. I thought Peak has actually been a great addition. And I said this. I said, listen, he played for a shitty Columbus Blue Jackets team. So, let's actually put him on a good team and see how he is defensively. Because I know everyone's like, oh, he's a minus 42 in his career in Columbus, blah, 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 or whatever it was. I get it. I looked at that. But at the same time, I also understood it's Columbus. Okay? So let's see what happens. So now with Peak out, they called up Lowry and had Witherspoon as the sixth man. And what they're doing tonight, which I'm surprised with, is they're sitting Grzelcyk in favor of putting Lowry with McAvoy and Witherspoon with Shattenkirk, the guy I just talked about. And I love it. I love it. Sitting Grzelcyk, listen, again, he's another guy I was very willing to trade last offseason because look at his postseason stats. He's got 0 goals, 0 assists, and 0 points over the last 3 postseasons and is a total -7. I mean, what more do you need? He can't play in the playoffs. And, and that's why I'm like, you know what? Send the kid in. Send Lowry in. He was a great player. Now it's going to be interesting to see how defensively sound Lowry is, because he's going to go up against arguably the best forward group in the NHL with Tavares and Matthews. But let's do it. I was already looking at this season as we were going to be, the 3rd or 7th or 8th seed, and that we're going to have to rely on some of our young guys. So let's do it. Let's freaking do it. I'm excited. Game 3 is going to start in about 5 minutes. And I got one more segment for you guys, but don't worry because we got some playoff basketball coming at you. Game 1, Boston Celtics versus the Miami Heat, it was exactly what you thought it was. Boston came out and absolutely dominated the Heat for most of this game. Now, of course, Miami did go on some runs. They did cut it to, I think, within 12 at one point late in the game. But then Boston was able to take it and run away with it, which as they should have. And the funny part was, I'm like, see, this is it. This is the Celtics team that needs to show up night in and night out and realize that, you know what? This is the playoffs. We're going to go out and take it. We're not going to go up 30, and then just rest on our laurels and be okay with it. No. You and I, we're going at this. Who wants it more? We do. That's right. We're taking it, whether you like it or not, because that's how good this team is. And so, before I go on, what kind of made me a little bit surprised and kind of made me a little bit, let's actually pump the brakes on this, is the fact that the media and the social media, especially, attention on game number 1 was the fact that it felt like the series is over, that it was a one and done. It was a play-in game. Look, the Celtics are already into the next round. They already swept the Miami Heat after playing one game. No, there's still at least 3 more games to be played. And that's why I sat back and I was seeing all these posts like, see, all you Miami fans, you were chanting, we want Boston. Now look what happened. Really, guys? Is this the first time that you've ever heard the opposing fan base say, we want Boston, and then they get Boston and you subsequently kick their ass? You kick their ass in the series, not the game, folks. All right? So let's pump the brakes. It's game number 2. Literally, we should go out and put on a show once again. The talent discrepancy is no match. The Celtics are far and away the more talented team than Miami, especially without Jimmy Butler and Terry Rozier. Terry Rozier, I think, is kind of a big miss for the Miami Heat, dealing with that neck injury. And it would have been a hell of a lot more fun if both Rozier and Butler were playing in this game. But unfortunately, that's just how the chips lie. So because of that, it's no question. The second round is a foregone conclusion, really. It's what are we going to do with it? 4 or 5? If we go 6, then something really went wrong with this team. But that's really the story. The story is, when is the second round going to happen? Right? Because the Celtics are 15-point favorites tonight. 15. Like, I guarantee you it would be 2, 4, at most 7.5 if Jimmy Butler were fully healthy. And so that's why it's kind of like, all right, let's just get to the second round. Like, that's how I feel. I feel like it's at the end of the regular season all over again. Because game 1, it was dumb. It was stupid. The fact that they got as close as they did late in the game was ridiculous. But let's not forget, Caleb Martin, the guy, I'm like back and forth on this. A part of me, the green teamer in me looks at it going, oh yeah, he totally went for Tatum. He might not have wanted to necessarily undercut him the way he did, but he 100% went after him. I mean, you could tell the guy basically jumped from the friggin' elbow all the way to hip check Tatum the way he did. And so, you got that part of me, but the other part too says like, really? Like, are we going to play this game? Are we going to really, say that, oh, look, the Heat, Pat Riley, Kevin McHale with the clothesline of Kurt Rambis. Pat Riley was the coach, and, Pat Riley hates the Celtics, which I don't agree with the fact that Eric Spoelstra called a timeout, down 16 with a buck and a half to go in the game. I also don't agree with the fact that Tatum, Brown, and our starting five were out there a buck and a half up 16, right? Like, that's just stupid. So, again, I'm a little bit split on that, but I do kind of want to err on there was a little bit, hey, you know what? We're not going to win this game tonight. So let's just go out there and show them who's more physical. And that's us. And that's what it was. I don't think Caleb Martin intentionally wanted to hurt Tatum and knock him out for the series. But at the same time, yeah, he kind of might wanted to prove a point a little bit there. And so, really, the only story that that I'm wondering is, one, when is the second round going to hit? And two, is Miami going to make it interesting? And if so, how are the Celtics effing it up? Right? Like, that's what's going to bother me. Because if the Celtics allow this to go 6 games, then the Celtics clearly are already looking ahead to the second round. And that's the story right there. If they keep winning, if they keep dominating, then it's cool, great. But overall, the Celtics should sweep the Heat, or at least a gentleman's sweep, win in 5. That's really what it all comes down to. So, hey, I appreciate you guys listening and watching. This is the Boston Sports Summit. I am your host, Tim Barnett, and it is on the Grid Network's YouTube channel every single Wednesday at 7 p.m., the usual time. Tonight we had a special show for you with the NFL draft, the mock draft, and then talking about playoff Bruins, playoff Celtics. So it's going to be fun. Next week, there's going to be a lot to talk about, and hopefully we get positive news next week. We got both the Bruins and the Celtics going to the second round. So let's hope so, because the games just kicked off. It is 7 o'clock. So we're gonna go in and watch some of those games. We're going to be talking about it on Twitter, and maybe even might go live later tonight on Instagram. So make sure that you like, share, subscribe. Please, please, please comment on this. It helps with the algorithm. Like it. It helps. You can watch it, or you can follow me where I'm much more active on my X and Instagram accounts. X, it's at BOS Sports Summit. Okay, sports is plural. BOS Sports Summit on X. On Instagram, it's Boston Sports Summit. Also on YouTube, Boston Sports Summit. And like I said, live on the Grid Network, GRYD Network YouTube channel. And you can also find the audio of this show on Apple, Spotify, wherever podcasts are on audio. So thank you guys once again for listening. I am your host, Tim Barnett, and this is the Boston Sports Summit presented by the Grid Network. Thank you so much. God bless. And let's go Bruins. Let's go Celtics, baby. I'll see you then. I'll see you next week.